What's up, everybody? In this episode or video, we're going to talk about something really important, the red states versus blue states debate, or the red state versus blue state debate that recently happened on Hannity. Now, this involved our favorite mayor, Gavin Newsom, and our second favorite mayor, or vice versa, Ron DeSantis. I personally will tell you right off the bat, I'm a fan of Ron DeSantis, so you could take it as a way of where this video may go or may not. I'm going to try to be as fair and balanced. I know that these two men are in great positions and each love their country just in a different way, as Hannity said. But I wanted to go ahead and compare the numbers and what was discussed during that red state versus blue state debate. We're going to also talk about who dodged the most questions. I want you guys to comment below what you thought of the debate if you actually have seen it. I found it to be extremely entertaining and so important. It might be even more important than the next presidential debate for the reason that this is the direction of the country. It's either going to go one way with this type of ideology or it's going to go another way with this type of ideology. So it's Florida versus California. Let's get into it. Okay, so again, I mentioned earlier, I'm a fan of Ron DeSantis. I would say DeSantis is a great candidate potentially for presidency in the future. Maybe he's not going to be a president in 2024, but sometime in the future. Newsom, I have some problems with. I know he's in a tough position. I know he means well, but I think the way they do things is just not working. I mean, you could look at all the cities, San Francisco, Oakland, Los Angeles, all of these big cities in California, Sacramento, and you can see the crime rates and so forth. We've made quite a few videos on the death of San Francisco, the death of Los Angeles, which is going to come, and some of those other key Democratic ran cities or majority Democratic cities. So in this video, I saw this debate and I was thrown off guard by the way Newsom was answering some of these questions and dodging them. The first question that came out, and I have my phone, and I took notes on these questions, which is incredible. Red state versus net migration, right? Florida has had 454,000 people coming in between 2021 and 2022. Next was Texas with 318,000, then South Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee. Not so interested about those other three states because Florida's been more of an interest of mine state. Texas, I had some friends move, but a lot of people have left California. At the same time, California, during those 2 years, has lost 750,000 people, and Florida has gained 454,000 people. So that's a difference of 1.1 million net migration or so. Of course, Gavin Newsom off the bat dodged the question. He did not want to answer as to why that's happening. In fact, Hannity got frustrated and he was like, are you going to answer the question or let me rephrase the question, etc. There's no fact, and I think it's kind of crazy that people in California are in some type of disbelief that people are leaving California. Businesses are leaving California. I don't know why there is such a disbelief when politicians are asked about it. I mean, the numbers come from the Census Bureau. This is a legitimate fact, and it's just weird. And obviously, a lot of people migrated out because of cost of living, crime, lockdowns, extreme lockdowns, which we're going to talk about. But California had that, and Florida was open. It did get locked down for a brief period, as it was mentioned in the debate, but it was open, and a lot of people loved that. And when they came out there and they saw smiling faces, a shining sun, and they saw restaurants open and people dancing and loving life, why the hell not move to an area like that, right? So that was the first big question, and I thought DeSantis killed it. He said, hey, our policies were meant for the individuals that live here. They were meant to keep the city open, to keep the city going, or the state, I should say. Newsom tried to, of course, talk back about DeSantis closing it briefly and opening it at once his people got involved. Or, of course, these guys have such financial backings. It's all crazy. But overall, he tried to downplay Newsom tried to downplay DeSantis's ability or movements to keep Florida open. And I give him kudos. I mean, schools were open pretty quick. I think August of 2020. Schools in California were shut down. I personally have kids and remember the headaches and how hard it was. The COVID lockdown was a big discussion as part of this. And I think what Newsome was trying to say is you closed or tried to hurt Disney World. And DeSantis said, hey, I kept Disney World open while your Disneyland in LA was closed. So there were shots fired back and forth. I truly enjoyed this debate. And I hope you guys have watched it. It's on Hannity. You can watch clips of it, of course, on YouTube. But it was just a truly magnificent debate. Now, we're going to get back to the COVID numbers because there was something that DeSantis did not bring up in the questions. In fact, maybe I'll skip it and I'll talk about the COVID numbers now. COVID deaths, surprisingly, right? Florida was open. You didn't have to wear a mask. I hated masks from the beginning. I'm totally against masks unless you're in like a hospital or you're a doctor. I can understand you wearing it. I can understand if you have elderly, maybe you want to wear it. But I see people driving around San Francisco in the car by themselves with a mask on. Like, who are you protecting from? Yourself or the car? Or like, I don't understand. What are you doing? There's a filter in the car. Elon Musk has made a video with a car filter that sucks out like poisonous gas from his Tesla. Yet there are people driving in the same Tesla with that car filter with a mask on. These people are masked. They're driving by themselves. Sometimes they're driving with their significant other. It makes me question, what the hell do they do at home? Do they go to bed with their mask? I just don't get it. But the COVID deaths, surprisingly, were pretty much the same in during that time per 100,000 people. There were 252.6 deaths in Florida, 248.4 deaths in California. Only a difference of 4 deaths, yet the entire state was open. We're talking no businesses shut down. We're talking people being able to go outside, people being able to go on the beach. I remember a buddy of mine was in the beach or on the beach in Pacifica, and he almost got arrested during that time surfing by himself. He was out in the middle of the damn ocean in Pacifica, California, surfing, and the police pulled him off and made him come back onto shore and almost arrested him for being surfing outside, mind you, by himself. It's unheard of. It's ridiculous. But the death numbers don't lie according to the CDC. Now, the CDC, I think, inflated these numbers anyway. That's my personal opinion. Of course, it's not proven. But I think the CDC has Florida at 252.6, 248.4, and 289.1 is the national average. With that being said, what I meant to say the CDC inflated is I've had friends where their grandma passed away and they claimed it a COVID death, but it was not. So when they did that, I was like, oh my God, this is kind of weird, right? And there's been stories out there of such cases. Whether you believe in COVID or shots or whatever, I don't care. It's up to you to get your jab or fourth or not get a jab. I honestly don't care. I'm just discussing the facts, right, of what they put out or what they say are the facts. So that was the deaths. Now, DeSantis defended himself. He said, hey, we were able to pretty much achieve the same death rate while Newsome was accusing DeSantis of nearly killing 10,000 people or more with their COVID numbers. It's insane. But the death rate shows the same per capita. So that basically means that it's the same death rate whether or not you're wearing masks or whether or not you're closing businesses. And I find that to be absolutely insane. There's no reason to close a business. At the same time, DeSantis fired back saying, hey, your kids were going to private school. They were enjoying the everyday life while everyone else's kids had to stay and learn from home, which was a disaster. I personally have a hard time taking care of the kids at home. I know that during that time, it was difficult to be on the computer and teach them computers. And depending on what grade they are, it was hard. And the teachers do deserve credit, guys, for taking care of our children. It just so happens to be that DeSantis was pointing out that the union in California really dominates Newsome. Did not open the schools for a long time, did a lot of short days, half days, remote learning. I found that to be a disaster. The death rate, in my opinion, from COVID should be far higher in California if they account for things such as suicide. They account for depression and things of that nature, crime. I mean, there's such things that happen as a fallout from the COVID lockdowns that DeSantis failed. And I say failed. He should have brought it up. He brought a lot of props to this debate, but he did not discuss this. He failed to point out that, hey, the death rates from lockdowns are higher. Suicides are higher. Depression is higher. Drug abuse is higher. Alcoholism has climbed because of all these lockdowns. People are still recovering from being scared to death to go outside. I mean, some people can process it and move on. It's like seeing a murder or seeing being in a battle and being at war and seeing someone's legs blown off. Some people just can't take that, right? They have PTSD, while others can go about their day and start a company and never even think twice of it. But some people were so affected by these lockdowns that Newsome failed to bring out to DeSantis failed to bring up to Newsome, saying, hey, because of your lockdowns, a lot of people are mentally ill. There's a higher crime rate. There's suicides. Children and high school kids and kids of that nature are around the ages where they're supposed to celebrate their development, were locked down, weren't able to celebrate anything. People in California couldn't go to their grandparents, mother's funeral, etc. That was insane, right? It's just insane that in one state, you could bury your grandparents. In another state, you can't do that, okay? You can't do that because you can't gather 20 people. You can't gather for Thanksgiving or snitch on your neighbor. It's crazy. Comment below if you agree with me in regards to this. There's definitely more than just CDC numbers per death, and I think DeSantis failed to point that out. Newsome had no fight with this. When the numbers came out, showed that it's the same, pretty much the same per capita death rate for a lockdown state and not a lockdown state. I was personally in shock. Let me know if you were as well below. Shout out to Florida for that. I thought that was great. Now, we talked about, I wasn't there, but they talked about California versus Florida state income taxes. California's state income tax on the medium income is 6%. So you're paying an additional 6% for whatever you feel you're getting. Time. California income tax over 1.355 million. Now this is joint income or individual income is 13%, the highest in the country. Florida tax for medium income of high net worth individuals over 1.3 million, et cetera, 0% across the board. What I failed to understand, and you guys could comment below, is how Newsome kept claiming the minority or the very low income individuals in this spectrum below, say, the blue collar workers or the middle class are paying more income tax. Doesn't the state of Florida have 0% income tax? Therefore, you're not paying income tax whether or not you make $100,000, $2,000. It doesn't matter. It's like you're not paying income tax. So how did Newsome come up with this idea that in Florida, somehow the very impoverished individual pays more income tax? I couldn't get it. I didn't understand it. And it kind of came back towards like sales taxes and everything else to add to that. The average property tax rate in Florida is higher than California, okay? It's 0.91%. California is 0.75. Sales tax in Florida, lower than California, 6% versus 7.25%, okay? According to the Tax Foundation. Gas taxes. This is where it becomes another interesting topic. If you live in California, you paid $7 gas in the past like 3 months, right? Within the 3 months. Now it's back down to like $4.50 or so. And it's incredible. But what is interesting is California taxes on gas double the rate of Florida. Therefore, the gallon prices are much higher. And according to DeSantis, Newsome is suing the oil industry, which I'm not inclined to say is a good or bad idea, but he said it's going to raise the gas prices. I hope it doesn't. But gas taxes per gallon, 35.23 cents in Florida, 77.9 cents in California. And then the big one, corporate income tax, 5.5% in California, 5.5% in Florida, 8.84% in California. So DeSantis won this argument because he said, hey, wait a minute, let's back up here. You're saying that the low income or the impoverished individual, the individual that's really struggling out here in Florida would have a better chance in California. You got double the gas prices, which means to get from point A to point B is costing you double in price. So the average individual that needs to commute to a job or needs to drive, the gas prices are double. Think about contractors. Think about any type of job out there where you are forced to drive to a location to give a quote, to paint a wall, to cut hair, to do whatever. Having double the gas prices is a significant, and I mean significant difference, because everything adds into your total product cost. So DeSantis is like, I don't have no idea what you're talking about. You're lying. If you have more expensive gas, it's already more expensive to live there. Add the sales tax, add the income tax, add all these other taxes. They tax you to death. That's really where it's at. I don't know how Newsome was able to defend himself from this argument. And maybe you could comment below and add to that as well. 0% means 0%. Now, they touched on a topic about immigration. This was also an interesting discussion because Newsome would not answer if immigration or if the border was secure under Biden. He said he's doing a great job. Comment below what you think about that. DeSantis said he's doing a horrible job. I do think this is a problem when someone says, hey, everybody's welcome, come on in, and they're not vetted. You don't know who you're getting. And with the recent wars that we're seeing, you don't know who is coming into the country or what they're capable of, okay? It's very dangerous. And since these wars and these extreme views, people have, and the government has released like warnings that the terror threat is at the highest it's ever been. And it's for a reason, because we don't know who's in the country. Listen, it doesn't take 1 million people to overthrow something. You could have 20 crazy people or very devoted people do something so drastic that will really hurt a lot of families. And I think open borders and not vetting anyone, not having people approved to come into this country is a problem. And on top of that, in the past, the way that they would get people to come into the country, it was called the brain drain, right? They would take engineers from a developing country or a country that's having problems. They would take the smartest people from post-war. They've taken people from Germany. They've even taken Nazis from Germany that were great engineers and so forth. But they've taken these individuals to let them live because they contributed to America's development. You could comment below whether that's right or wrong, but the brain drain was for the collective good of the country that they're coming into, supposedly, where they could contribute to society. Bringing anyone from anywhere into this country could be a problem, including terrorism and drugs. And DeSantis did touch on that. And he said a lot of drugs are coming in and it's killing a lot of people, which I feel is the truth. Now, Newsome did not feel that way. I thought he lost that part. He should have said, hey, there is a problem at the border. You got to ask yourself, what was the point of this debate? Why would Newsome come out and battle DeSantis? I can see why DeSantis would take it. He's running for president and Trump hasn't debated him, because Trump doesn't want to lose a debate or say something wrong that's going to shift his big lead. But Newsome coming out, what's that about? Is he grooming himself for president? He wouldn't answer whether or not he would be running for presidency unequivocally, meaning that for sure 100% he's not running for it. He kept saying that he feels the people in charge now are going to be great to move forward. But why did he take the debate? And my thought on that was they wanted to see how he does on live television in the debate. They wanted to see his face, his responses, his smile. His smile, I don't know. Comment below on his smile. Let me know what you guys think. Newsome, sorry, I don't hate you. I'm just telling you the truth here. All right. So immigration numbers under the Biden administration, they put up a fact, according to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, 6.5 million encounters. That's just who they encountered, folks. That's crazy. 2.8 million notices to appear issued, means that they've sent out, hey, you need to appear and check back in. And known gotaways, people that haven't checked in when they issued these notices, in addition to the 2.8 million, is 1.7 million. So there's 1.7 million people running around in the United States being shipped from here to there. Now, Newsome talked about how DeSantis did that. That was rude. It was a very interesting time where DeSantis sent people to Martha's Vineyards, which was really funny or weird. I don't know how you look at it. Kind of weird, funny, weird, I would say. It's interesting, but is it the right approach to prove your point? That's debatable, right? I don't know. I just thought that the people of Martha Vineyard that day probably woke up like, what the F is going on? They were shocked. Some numbers that from migrants that came out from, again, the TBP data, 6,386 Afghans. You guys remember we had a war in Afghanistan that pummeled a lot of things? 3,153 Egyptians. 659 Iranians, okay? 538 Syrians. Here's another interesting one, 12,605 Russians. Now, we are sanctioning Russia. Who knows who's coming in from Russia? Now, I am Russian Jewish descent. I will throw that out there. And, our family left during that collapse. I love America. And then there's a really interesting fact. So Chinese, 26,113. So you got Russia and China as some of the biggest numbers in terms of who you're up against, in terms of like not having the same politics in order. So they're bringing in a lot of people, and a lot of those people are middle-aged men, which is interesting. So is the border secure? Newsome said they're doing a great job. DeSantis said they're doing a bad job. I'm going to go with DeSantis on this one. I think borders are important for countries, for security. And before it's too late, you have to secure the premise. You got to bring it back to any type of operation, right? If you're in the SWAT team, you secure the premise, then you go in, so to speak. If you're in combat, you secure, then you go in. You can't not have borders and allow anything to come in. That just doesn't make sense. Comment below if you agree with me. It's not efficient. It takes labor away potentially. It's costly. Now, I feel bad for the people that are fleeing their country potentially because they don't have opportunity. But when you promise people everything that when they come here and you don't give them what you promise, that could lead to potential frustration, crime, and who knows what else. There's just horror stories out there. I personally feel the brain drain method works the best, and pride in being an American or a foreign American is a beautiful thing. All right, violent crime rates. Now, as you guys know, the Death of San Francisco video, again, you can check it out on the channel. There was a discussion of how crazy crime is. You got to open your car doors. You got to not wear jewelry in public, et cetera, et cetera. Violent crime rates. Newsome could not answer as to why California has slipped and has some of the most violent crime rates in the country, okay? Nationally, it's per every 100,000 FBI crime data. Now, this is from the feds, okay, directly. 380 people, 380.7 individuals per every 100,000 experienced crime. This includes murders. This includes robberies. This includes a lot of different crimes, okay? California has 499.5 per 100,000 in crime, and Florida, surprisingly, ranks lower than the national average by almost a third at 258.9 per 100,000 individuals crime rate. Newsome, for some reason, went at DeSantis saying that this guy literally has some of the worst crime rates in the country, the shooting rates, et cetera. Now, Miami, in my opinion, is a terrible area during certain times of the year. A lot of friends that I have there complain about it too, saying it gets dirty, it gets unsafe. There's shootings. I mean, we've seen the shootings, like 30 people shot or something like that. It's ridiculous. But I got to tell you, Oakland, you don't want to go there and feel like you could walk around without something happening, right? You got to be on guard. And California obviously leads per crime in terms of capita in that discussion. So again, DeSantis is winning. Florida's winning. I haven't seen, and I don't know if Hannity did in the beginning say that he was a Republican by nature or more conservative. I don't know if they took this data and there was not one piece of data that went towards California. Is there one? I don't know. I must have missed it because all of these facts from the FBI, from the CDC, from Border Patrol, all lean towards crazy numbers that favor DeSantis' argument. Newsome kept coming back with like, hey, Trump's beating you. We'll both never be president or won't run for presidency in 2024. What does that have to do with the debate? Answer below. Was he just changing topics, or what was up with that? All right, gun laws. Here we go. As someone that feels you should have the right to own a gun, it's the Second Amendment. I think it's crucially important. California ranked the most restrictive gun state in the country, yet it had 21 mass shootings since 2019. Florida ranked as the 19th most restrictive in the country. I'm actually surprised by that statistic. I thought Florida was an open carry, like easier to obtain a gun. I guess Nevada is easier. I don't know the other states, but 19th, that's not really that low. Yet it had 9 mass shootings since 2019. Now, mass shootings are 4 or more people injured or shot. So you got the most restrictive state in the country with gun laws, yet it has the most mass shootings in the country since 2019. Again, these numbers could be skewed from dates and years and ranges, but from the past 4 years, California had more mass shootings than Florida. That's what this says, and that's ridiculous, right? So we have to go, are gun restriction laws working? Because, hey, we all know criminals. They don't oblige by the law anyway, right? They don't give a damn what the law is. They're going to have a ghost gun. They're going to have a 3D printed gun. They're going to have some type of gun to commit a crime. They're not going to go to the store and wait 14 days for their background check, which probably won't come through, to be approved to buy a gun to go rob you. They're going to go get a gun for half the cost or a third of the cost down on the street. And guess what? They're going to go ahead and use that gun when they want to use that gun. And that's what's happening. So gun laws, yes, they help out in certain situations, but also in certain situations, it's not the main focus to stop crime. It doesn't stop crime. I was talking to a lawyer, and I had this deep discussion about guns with this individual, and anything could be used as a weapon. A car could commit as many or more problems as a gun. So can a knife. So gun laws, I don't know, it's the mentality and the way crime is perceived, I think, but overall, Florida won that one. Now, Newsome, in this sector of discussions, talked about two funny things. He kind of brought props with him in this debate, and you can comment below, let me know. But the first one was, he's like, a lot of Californians move from California to Florida, and we welcome them all. And one of them is your father-in-law. I was like, this is insane. So apparently Newsome's father-in-law or ex-father-in-law, I don't know the family dynamic here, but he moved to Florida, and he's also complaining about California. Newsome's face when he said that was just one of the funniest things I've seen. The second part of the debate was how clean San Francisco is, and I can't believe DeSantis in his pocket had a map of poop all over San Francisco, and it mapped out all the poop in San Francisco where it was. Newsome was laughing. I was laughing while watching this. I found this debate to be more entertaining than any football game I've seen this year, any basketball game certainly. Maybe not UFC. I do love UFC. But that was pretty impressive. And I do think props and facts really are a great part of debates. I truly think it adds a little sense of fun and value, but it also says, hey, there's something here showing there's like problems. Watch out where you step. Okay, then education. This was a big one for me because I've always thought and been taught that Florida education, even from people that lived in Florida, sucked. I don't know if that's the truth. Comment below, because sometimes I see great schools. But according to some of these statistics, now these statistics came out from the U.S. News and World Report. They also report on best schools and colleges and so forth. Although schools are weird now, and I made videos, should you go to college? You can check those out on my channel. California versus Florida. Florida ranked #1 in education by U.S. News, okay? Now, I'd like to know what it was ranked #1 as. California at the same time ranked number 20th by U.S. News. Florida spends $12,000 per student on K through 12th grade education, and California spends $16,000. So they're spending more on education. I think it's because of cost of living, potentially, but they're not even ranked as high as Florida, which is ridiculous. Contrary to everything I've known about Florida, everybody kept always telling me when I travel on vacation and so forth, when we discuss Florida, they always say Florida schools are terrible. Doesn't seem to be the case, right? So that was an interesting graphic. And comment below, are Florida schools crap? According to these numbers, it seems better. So what are we getting in California? This was the big one too. Homeless population. California has 172,000 homeless. According to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, Florida, only 26,000. That's a drastic difference. That's 150,000 or so more homeless in California. No wonder he's having a hard time cleaning it up. And guess what? They're just inviting people. I heard in San Francisco, I don't know if this is true, comment below, you could be a citizen of the city. I don't know if that's still a thing, where if you're a resident of San Francisco, they give you money, they give you a cell phone. You could be on the streets doing whatever the hell you want to do. Homeless population per capita, California versus Florida. Out of 10,000 people, 44 homeless, 12 homeless out of 10,000 in Florida. Very, very interesting debate this was. Overall, Gavin Newsom failed to answer questions. I felt like constantly Hannity got frustrated. At one point, they also started interrupting each other, and it just got really annoying and hard to listen to. I know this was a power struggle, so they had to talk over each other. So Newsom would talk over DeSantis. DeSantis tried to talk over Newsom. Hannity would say, hey, I'm not a potted plant here, which is really interesting. He tried to be as great of a moderator as he could be. I will say, I think Hannity, this guy's a successful man. I think he grew up from nothing or started from nothing. Sean Hannity did the best job in the debate moderation role that I've personally seen. It wasn't biased. He tried to get their attention, but he couldn't. I think he cut it off or changed topics when he couldn't, and he did his best to moderate this debate. I thought it was interesting, again, that Gavin Newsom took the debate and DeSantis had this debate, red state versus blue state. It started, again, division, but overall, I think it's so important for the direction of the country and the direction of where America will shape itself towards the future, towards education, towards schools, towards what role parents play in children's education. I mean, in California, DeSantis brought up books that teach kids sexual, basically pornographic images almost of books in the California school system that have, like, I don't even want to say it. I think you guys saw it. It's just, it was gross to see that someone very young could read that. Okay. I don't think there's a place for that. And in Florida, those books are banned. So a lot of sexualized books in California. It's just weird. I don't know. I don't know the direction. I think it's important. I think overall, California and Florida are so vastly different. There's going to be a mass migration shift of individuals to where they feel like they fit in, sadly. I don't think there's this uniting factor unless something crazy happens where all Americans have to unite. It's going to be divided. You're going to either like this president or hate this president and so forth. And the red versus blue has become like a team you have to play on. I will say all politicians, I think, are crooked. And I don't think any of them will pay your mortgage or your bills. So just be a better individual. But I will say that in this debate, and based on all these numbers and stats that Hannity has brought out that were verified by all these independent companies, Florida is winning. Florida won in the lockdowns. They won with the same number or almost the same number of deaths per capita without any lockdowns. They're thriving over there with businesses moving, people moving, businesses starting up. It's great weather, a little too hot during the summers. Who cares? You just go to Europe or wherever. You're near the Caribbean. You got beautiful beaches. You got great schools. I was surprised to see that Florida outranked California in the schools in terms of rankings. You've got interesting policies with the right to bear arms. You've got more freedom, it feels like, than you do in California. And I feel like speech, maybe open speech is more accepted, but maybe if you're like a Biden or Newsom supporter, you probably don't fit in. The one crazy topic I didn't cover in this video was birth control. And that's a very sensitive topic. And that night I had a discussion with my wife about it. The big question was, to me, at what point does the baby inside a woman's stomach become or have rights, right, to live? And at what point is it no longer the right of the mother or the woman giving birth or should be giving birth to say, hey, this is no longer about me, but about this human being that's coming out. So this was a super, super tense debate between my wife and I. It was a very interesting debate, which I personally felt that, you know, if a baby is breathing or has a heartbeat, I should say, and it's like if you can take the baby out and it's breathing and it could feel and move and so forth, that's a living being, right? And then what's interesting is as soon as the baby comes out the wound, if you kill the baby right there, that's homicide. But if you kill the baby before birth, that's okay. It's just insane. So these topics in my head were just going forward and forward. I don't have the answer to that. Maybe you could comment on all these things. I just hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it brought out some positive thoughts. To me, Florida won by a lot. You're saving taxes. You got good schools. You got less crime. I mean, you name it. We've covered all the fun facts here. There's not as much poop. There's not a poop map. I mean, this is just insane. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe, contribute, guys. Please comment below. If also you can, subscribe to the Ideal Hour podcast, where I have great guests on the show that have achieved, that have been through something and have a great story to tell. And we launch an episode every Wednesday. So I hope you watch that as well. And thank you for watching this episode. And appreciate the support, the like, and the subscribe. See you guys next time.